What is a spot or area in a hotel that you really enjoy? And if it's not shady, will you show it to me?
It's all shady.
Cool.
Hey, so I got a new series where I hit up the Delta region to highlight a bunch of dope people doing dope things. You know, I had to check out the food, the culture, some libations, kicking it, and even had a few knowledge bombs dropped on.
5 Heartbeats or The Temptations?
5 Heartbeats.
Respect.
Overall, it's just a real cool, light way to shed some light on an area that often doesn't get the respect it deserves. Delta Truths with Big Piph. Hope y'all get a chance to check it out. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Cool Conversations right here on Miss Hennessy TV. I am your host, Maxine Johns, aka Miss Hennessy, and tonight we have a very exclusive, very exciting interview with an uber cool person. He's literally just like the coolest dude. Big Piph and I have worked together with 4E. A couple of years ago when he was out here doing some great things with an incredible hip hop collective, just traveling the world, spreading the word about hip hop. And he's obviously introduced himself to our community over the years as not only being somebody who loves his hip hop, he is a hip hop artist as well. He's a creative, he's a performer, and also nicely known as the hip hop adventurer. So his adventures lead us to cool conversations tonight. Welcome to the show, brother. It's been a while. I hope you've been well.
I've been great. It's great to see you and hear from you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, you're in Atlanta at the moment, and you've been obviously based stateside now for quite some time. Normally, you're traveling the world with your with this particular community that we are going to talk about, that you've done some incredible work that did bring you to Australia a few years ago. But how has life been treating you? What have you been up to recently?
Yeah. Life and I are cool. So I've been doing a lot more on the video production side, like hosting and producing web series where I will like engage with a different community. So for instance, there's a area here called the Delta region in the United States, and they're known to be a little bit more underserved, not having many resources. So I've been just trying to like share stories from communities and like underserved communities who kind of just need it or just don't have certain voices, and kind of like providing a little bit light on that. So I've been doing that and a few other ones in that nature. And as of lately, I've just been making a little bit more music too. So yeah.
That's what's up, because music, obviously, that is, would we say that's your first love? I mean, that's what's, immersed you in into this particular, community, but then obviously also that is what's catapulted Big Piph into this world. So your music is something that is so unique, but it's just so on point as well. I love the videos. Everything is you. It's all just created by you. So can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I would say like hip hop underneath everything is like the underlying love. And so like and I'm gonna talk about the music, even with like the video production, it's still very to me just like a hip hop creative, right? Like just in the aspects of not just music, but just the presence and the culture that I bring and try to have inflected in it. And then of course, like with the music, like that's been my largest usher into hip hop creativity. And so now even with the music, a lot of it is wanting to do speak on just certain things in my mind and my life right now that also could resonate with other people, but then couple that with like cool like visuals as I delve more into filmmaking. So kind of like the marriage of the music and the message or the lyrics with just like cool visuals that resonate. And right now I consider it just like a growth process, right? So I just consider myself forever student. And so it's like, hey, let's try to write in a different way, and let's also try to create videos in a different way to culminate to like a larger project. So it's been cool. It's been fun.
Yeah. Speaking of hip hop, I mean, hip hop is always changing and it's constantly evolving. But lately, it's been getting a little ratchet, right? For my liking. There's been a lot of things kind of going on, and I guess it's just how the news has been reporting things, especially here in Australia. We've had our own hip hop embarrassments of late. So let's not even talk about that. Or we can talk about it. I don't know if you followed it, but just in terms of how the world kind of sees and accepts hip hop at the moment. Where do you
Mhm.
see hip hop sitting right now, just globally, with what the artists are creating and with what I guess the audience is kind of taking in? Where do you see it sitting right now?
Right. I almost always differentiate it into like two different categories. And one of them I think is doing not so well. Another one I think is actually doing great.
Mm.
So the one I differentiate between like we talking mainstream and mainly what the media puts out versus just, and I almost don't even say underground because it's not even underground
Mm.
anymore due to like streaming. But as far as like media depiction, right, the mainstream artists that get the majority of the airplay and get the majority of the dollars behind them, I don't think that's as good as a place as it's been a lot of times, right? Like
Yeah.
it used to through the generations, it used to have like it always existed, all the different levels existed. It's just now that I guess the term using like ratchet is now almost a spokesperson where it used to just be an element, right? So it used to be like always existed, always like was an element of that nature, which was cool and gave balance. But now it's like it has been in the last few years to me, the leaders of the pack,
Mm.
which I think throws it off kilter in terms of like mainstream. So I don't think that's as good a spot. But at the same time, like if I work with a lot of youth, and if I ask them who they're listening to, like it's some will definitely name like the mainstream, so on and so forth. But there's so much because of on streaming, right? Between Spotify, Apple Music, and artists just put out their own thing. I'll tell people like I can name like probably 10 artists that wouldn't even be known to most anybody, but if you go pull up their page, hundreds of thousands of streams. They're doing tours across the states, right? And that's something that didn't exist before, right? Because now you have underground used to just mean lesser heard or when it sells many CDs, but now because they can have their own dynamic through social media and streaming, they actually have like viable careers, right? Like just a random person to think about is this cat called Kota the Friend, Kota the Friend. And
Mm.
it's like talked to about 100 people, probably two will know who he is. But this dude does like tours, feeds his family, not
Wow.
just feeds his family, but like building up like a small empire off
Wow.
of independence. So in that state, I tell people like you could probably pick any subject and find a rap about it, right? Because there's some artists that now exist in that nature. So I always break it down like mainstream's kind of weird, kind of wonkier than ever. But as far as like, for lack of a better term, the underground or less mainstream, it's to me as healthy as viable as ever. And I've seen so many artists flourish
Yeah.
who years ago wouldn't have had a platform.
Absolutely. The same can be said, I think, for our Australian artists here. There's just and like the independent artists as well. They've literally created this art form of just being able to get their stuff sorted, done, out there, streamed, and they're hitting like hundreds of thousands of listeners. So we have such an incredible wealth of artistry here. But I always wonder, how far does it reach? Like, is it reaching globally? Because you never really know how to kind of gauge that sort of stats, right? So somebody like yourself that works within that sort of the youth community with a lot of the work that you do, what is the hip hop kind of sort of buzz like? Like, are these kids listening to like global hip hop, or is it just the hip hop of the streets in terms of like where they're from, like the states that you might sort of travel to? How would you gauge that with the kids that you work with?
Yeah. I would say it's globally, but it tends to be select areas globally, right? Like there's a big UK hip hop scene, and that's kind of been seen over here. Like so, UK is really big. And then but besides that, UK and actually I mean like West Africa, right? So West Africa in terms of Afro beats, and then South Africa in terms of I'm a piano, but
Yeah,
there are like MCs within it too. So it tends to be the hot spots globally have
yeah,
peaked over. So like I'd be surprised if they knew like a lot of Australian artists
yeah,
or um yeah, the hot spots to me, let's say West Africa, UK,
the
and I
UK.
see a little bit in terms of like Asian artists, especially in terms of Japan
Yeah,
and South Korea. So it is, and that's something that's also interesting because like once again, take before the streaming world, they wouldn't have had like a platform to reach over as easily until it was like on the radio. But now it's like folks would be like, hey, check out this person, check out this
Yeah.
person. And I do. And once again, be somebody I've never heard of. When I look them up, hundreds of thousands on, you know what I'm saying, YouTube. So it's like they have huge audiences. And that's something, once again, that I've never seen before. And it's cool because once again, it used to be, I would say like mainstream was the biggest chunk and then like underground, so say like 90-10. Whereas now it's like, I think it's more like a 60-40 thing, right? Like the longer tail is like mainstream is still the biggest, but like the longer tail of these underground, lesser known artists are like huge. And you know what I'm saying? And that's why it's, to me, like that's something I think is real cool. And sometimes it just doesn't get as, like the media won't report on all these people, right? So
No, they
when
don't.
they're doing, when they're doing cool stuff or let's just say lesser problematic stuff or just not, I don't say positive things, like that won't ever get reported on, but like the mainstream brouhaha always will. So yeah, it's an interesting balance, you know, and I get it. I don't think it's gonna change, but it's also cool when I do talk to youth, they're naming folks that I've never even heard of and putting me on game. I'm like, this is cool to them all, you know?
They do.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, who's teaching who here? Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
That's how
and
it
I
is.
do it every time. That's how I stay kind of like on point. I'll ask them like, yeah, because I don't want to come in the same way in doing like cultural exchange. When I came to Australia, I didn't want to be like, hey, I know everything. Check this out. I was like, hey, what are y'all listening to? Tell me about your neighborhoods. What was is meant to be an exchange, right? And so it's like, put me on game, and I'll share what I know. So it's the same way with like you, yeah.
Well, that's kind of how it should really be. At the end of the day, it's more collaborative than, us
Exactly.
telling them and that's it. Like they're the ones that are kind of coming up the next generation. So it's like my kids, they're always like, "Ma, have you listened to this and that?" And most of the time, it just makes my ears bleed. But I got to lean in and go, "Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. I could do better," and then my kid, that'll just rile him up like, "No, you can't. You don't know who you're talking to," that kind of stuff. But they do. They kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
yeah, they keep you honest. So, now speaking of the cultural exchange stuff, so if we can just touch on that. So the organization that you came out to Australia with, I forget the name, but are they still doing like the global kind of work that they've been doing? Because that was I think it was before COVID that you guys came.
Right. So that's next level, and yeah, they're still doing the work. I've actually done 2 more programs with them in 2 different other countries
So
since
next
Australia.
level.
Yes, next level.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
what's that program about, and how did you get chosen to come out at the time that you did? Because you came out with a couple of other creatives. I think it was DJ Cutting
Honey
Candy,
Candy,
um,
Chaz,
Beagle,
and
Beagle Matt
Maka.
Marker, and
Yeah.
a couple of other people. It was
Yeah.
you guys were so great when you came out. So how did that come about, and what's the work that they do?
Yeah, so Next Level's been around for a while, and essentially they're a cultural exchange program, cultural diplomacy through the veins of hip hop. And the main aspects are to do programming, put together a show for the community, and just like hip hop empowerment through conflict transformation as well as like entrepreneurship. And so you come down and they take 4 artists each time, normally an MC, DJ, graph artist, and B-girl or B-boy. And they basically do 4 to like 6 countries a year. And they tend to change, they rotate. And sometimes, after a while, they'll do repeat. So I think now they've been going on for maybe like 9, 10 years. And
Wow.
so the way I got chosen, I actually first started doing cultural ambassadorship, not through the program. Back in 2012, I did one and I got invited to Gambia.
Oh,
And
wow.
so by the time I started doing Australia, I'd already done Gambia, Algeria, Seychelles, Mauritius, and like 4 other countries, Thailand, a few other ones. And so I finally applied as an artist at first. And as you apply as an artist, I got accepted as an MC. And the first place I went was actually Myanmar.
Wow.
And then the Australia story was funny. So we almost didn't meet. So what happened was I literally got a call on a Monday. And they were like, hey, Piff, something real big, and we want to talk to you. I was like, cool. There's like, can you go to Australia on Friday? And it was like, and basically what happened is the MC that they had an issue and had to drop out. So they knew I could pull it off. So like I had something fall off. So I basically got ready for Australia in 5 days and like flew out. Yeah.
So
And then since
had you flown out from the States, or were you elsewhere and then had to fly to Australia at the time? Was it like
no, I was at the
London?
States. I was at
Oh,
the States. Yeah, right. And so, but like literally on Monday, they were like, "Can you leave Friday?" And I was like, let me call you right back."
wow.
And I'm really glad I did because Australia was amazing, right? And then after that, I actually became a site manager. So I was not an artist, but I would actually, I don't know if you remember JC. She was the person I was with.
I do remember her, yeah.
Right. Right. So I actually became like comparable to a JC and I actually managed the sites. And then I did Ghana and Philippines.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
long are
Yeah.
you out at like how long are you visiting and working in each of these countries, and what does the work entail? Like, because I know when you were here in Australia, you were going out to schools and you were doing sort of workshops and things, and then obviously when we all met, it was through 4E. So shout out to Viv with that, because that was so awesome to have you guys as part of our hip hop sort of conference. I think it was the first I think one of
Yeah.
the first or second years that the conference started, and we were doing panels and all that kind of workshops. So, what is it that you do in each country? Is it similar to what you did in Australia, or different depending on what they need?
It's similar, but also Australia is probably one of the more different residencies that we did because if I remember correctly, and I definitely could be wrong because I came on towards the end, it was supposed to be a different country at first, but then they had an issue. And so Australia was kind of
Right.
not put together last minute, but didn't have as much time to put together. So normally what happens is it's like three different things. So main part is it's a residency with a core group of artists in each of the disciplines over this 2 week process, and the end is a culmination show, right? So
Okay.
that we did do that in Australia. It was like I can't remember the place where it was. It was a little bit north, but we worked in this school, and then they had a show at the end. The show wasn't as big because we had to couple with I think the poetry group up there, so it's a
Okay.
little bit different. So normally the show ranges anywhere from like attendees because it's free to the public from like 500 to like thousands of people.
Right.
Then we do programming, just like one-offs, go to schools, do workshops. So hey, this high school wants to have y'all there, do a 2 hour program, or this community center. And then lastly is also would just be different cultural engagements. So maybe talks, it may be more so listening to talks. But yeah, so it's just those three forms of programming and the show at the end. And each time is the same, but each time like looks different. Like Australia was way different from Myanmar, which was different from Ghana, which was different from Philippines.
But isn't it amazing to think all these different countries you're traveling there because of hip hop?
No, look, I tell people it's crazy. Like Biggie has a line, never thought hip hop take it this far. And it's like I was in so on a cool little story, even like so back in 2012, I had just released an album and I was planning like on quitting because I was like not in a state where I thought I should be as an artist. And it was just kind of like, it was the first time I really started feeling kind of jealous of my friends who were getting like jobs and promotions and traveling or whatever. And so I got asked to go over to Gambia. And in Gambia, I was working with all these students. We're on the beach, and it's like about to have this huge concert. And it hit me like I'm doing amazing stuff within hip hop. It just didn't look like how I thought it would look like, right? And it's like, remember, like you chose this or it chose you because of the love and impact. And here you are working with all these people straight up on the other side of the world, and you're basically complaining because you don't look like this artist over here, right? And so it completely changed my life. So my first like cultural diplomacy completely changed my life. And when I came back, I wasn't really doing that much community work till then, but I came back on a mission to figure out how to have hip hop combined with community work. And it was interesting at first because everybody was like, all right, are you a community dude or are you an artist? Community dude or artist. I was like, I'm both. Like, you know what I'm saying? Why can't I be both? And now it's interesting because now people understand and they see like the impact and engagement is not separate from the music. Like it doesn't have to be either or. It's like I can move in these communities and be myself. But like that came because my first cultural diplomacy trip, and I realized that I didn't have to follow a path that seemed to be the one that people said I should be on.
Isn't it crazy though, like to hear you say that? Like I have the same things happen to me even at this point. Like when I've been in this game now 25 years, and I started off on radio, and never thought that, I thought that was it, radio, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to get into commercial radio and be the first woman, in hip hop in Australia. And then I achieved some great things, and then ended up becoming a DJ from that. Never ever thought I'd be a DJ, and one of the only female sort of DJs, like, to hold a residency for so long in one of like the best clubs in Sydney for such a long time. And there were other female DJs. There was only a small handful of ours. But then it kind of got into writing and then journalism and now an author. But to be in education in hip hop just blows my mind, especially in a country like Australia. And I think I've been with this particular school now for about 6 years, where I'm teaching them podcasting and radio skills and, all these kinds of things
Crazy.
based on, and like beats for rap for literacy and beat making. And you kind of go,
Yeah,
hang on a minute, man, like this
this
is
is
wild.
wild, right?
Like you've said, I never thought that was where my hip hop career was going to go. I didn't think that it would merge into what it is now. But you do look at things and go, but that's what I should be doing, right? But this is what you're doing now.
Exactly, right. And first, like straight to commend you on what you have done in Australia for women and just people in hip hop. So I don't know if you get enough roses for that. So salute for that in
Thank you.
Australia and over here. So that's dope that you continue to be a pioneer and a shining light, which is why I was amped when I saw your message in my Instagram. So salute to you for that.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's interesting and it's weird, if you think about it though, it makes sense and it not making sense in the sense of like when hip hop came, it was like something that was underrated. Like, what is this? This has no future. How can this be social viable? It morphed into what it was. And so it's cool, like to see what now, 50 years later, it's still morphing like for us, right? What people
Yeah.
thought hip hop should look like is very much not it. It's cool. Like I get like these real, so friends, I'm speaking at, I get these real kind of like now prestigious jobs in all these places, so on and so forth. And sometimes I'll talk to people and they're like, oh, what are you going down there for? People I don't know. And they think it's like, I'm going to be like a different, pitch something. I'm like, no, it's all hip hop, right? It's like, I'm not going there under, now I'm about to try to sell you healthcare. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to pitch you on like food, eating etiquette. It's like, nah, like this is a viable,
Yeah.
uh, lifestyle, career, culture that permeates everything and actually impacts things that you guys don't even give it credit for, right? And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like, it's amazing now that I get to do all these different things. Like the fact that I met you through doing a program in Australia because I at first penned some good bars and cared about the culture is amazing. So now it's like I don't ever underestimate. It's just like
Yeah.
it's meant to be such a powerful thing.
It is. It's just it's incredible. And I mean, I know even with my work with 4E, myself and Viv and our team, she's still I mean, I think she hits 10 years this year of that festival. And it's massive. Well, from what started off as just being this 1 day festival, and then it's turned into this incredible combination of all of these amazing artists here and also from overseas. And then a two day hip hop conference with these academics and people like yourself, that are doing such incredible change maker work, sort of culminating on stages to talk and to share and to learn. That's hip hop to me. And I think the fact that
Mhm.
there's a space that has been created for those conversations to happen, that's a really powerful thing. It's not just about what what the mainstream media likes to, especially here in Australia. I can't speak about the US because you've got the numbers, you've got the media, you've got the community to understand a little bit more about what hip hop's about. In Australia, we're still having to teach people what it's about and to give it the respect that it deserves. And so having spaces like that where people travel to come here to talk about what they're doing in their countries, I think is so powerful. So the work that you guys did and continue to do with that organization is really, really powerful. So I wish we had something like that here, man. It'd be crazy. It'd be
Yeah,
really,
it's cool. Like Next Level's been a very cool program and just do amazing things. And also it's allowed me to link with like-minded artists, right? Like, cause now after all the cycles, is hundreds of just hip hop artists who many, kind of as I was saying, who many folks want to know on a mainstream level, but are active in their communities or active in different ways and doing just dope things. So it's been also just a cool like plug for a community.
That's great. So we did talk a little bit before about you took a little bit of a break creatively,
Mhm.
you sort of, and you got off social media for a little bit as well. Um, and you've just recently kind of come back with some new music and a couple of new projects. But before you sort of went a little bit radio silent, you were creating some dope stuff, Piff. Like seriously, you had a series where you were going, and I forget the name, but it was a really cool name. Not
Delta
finished.
Truths,
What was it?
was it?
Finished but not finished, or something like that.
Oh, Far From Finished.
Far
Oh
from
yeah, Far From
finished,
Finished. Right, right,
right? And
right.
you also had that. Was it a one man show where you
Oh yeah, The Glow. The
that
Glow.
one, right? Like
Yeah.
all these really awesome kind of concepts. So what's the creative process like for you? Because you're not just a hip hop
Right.
artist, you're a creative. So when do you go, I'm not going to work on music now. I want to create something more along the artistic line of things.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, like, so music's always gonna be there because I like love making music, right? It's just kind of one of those things of it's part of me. I love it and I always do it, but I also don't see it as like I wouldn't want to be, if you push the button, I wouldn't want to be like a world traveling artist just for music anymore. Like just because in terms of creativity and where I've kind of like grown as a person, it's now different forms of like showing that creation. So essentially what happens is an idea will hit me and I will try my best to shake it and forget it, right? Meaning like it'll hit me and I'll like literally start sweating and be like, oh, I gotta make this, whatever. And I literally will be like, nah, like let's forget this. And if it sticks with me, then I just have to do it. And it like almost not even unwisely, right? Because they'll tend to be like really big projects that I don't have skills in and will take me 2 or 3 years. But it's pretty much, it was one of those things like if I don't see it existing in the world and I think my version of it has something to add, then I'm gonna do it. And that's pretty much it. And then I'll just like straight up start the process of figuring out how to get from A to X. You know what I'm saying? And it's like researching, trying stuff, failing in public, woo, 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 woo. And so like with the one man show, it was like I was watching what was supposed to be a stand-up comedy special, but ended up being like kind of this intricate multimedia one man show. And then as soon as I saw it, I was stuck because I was like literally like, I didn't know you could do that. And then immediately like my version hit my head. And then the next 18 months was just spent putting it together. Same thing with the web series was so I actually like one of my I want to figure out how to make a TV show and form with a production company. And it was just like, okay, what is this idea for a web series started forming? And then it was like, I guess we'll do it. And once again, it was one of those things like before that, yes, I delved into the multimedia and arts, but it's just I don't know how to shake it. I always say stuff like this. Once like my needs and like initial wants are covered, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like if people are in a situation, just in a larger global scale, if someone's in an impoverished state or a state where they lack in resources, they can't enjoy so much stuff until like they have necessities taken care of, right? Which is why it's an argument of like, yeah, find all these other things, but you got to take care of people's needs. So for myself, I realized if I'm okay resource wise and have the not the bare minimum, but just enough for like my core needs and what's taken care of,
Yeah.
then like my peace and fulfillment comes from doing these things. Right? Like it's not just go for
Yeah.
the cash grab, which are certain things I could have done for like more money. It's just like I find fulfillment in building these things with other people and putting them out into the world. And so once I had that, almost every time I'm gonna go over that way because it's just like that's made life dope. That's
Yeah.
honestly how that's the simplest way to say it, is like, you know.
No, you listen,
So yeah, that's kind of it. It's like
I have to say with your web series, I enjoyed watching a couple of those episodes, and there was one that stood out, and I chuckled because it was the way it was the lady that was sewing. I think I forget her name. She was like a seamstress. She was making something, and
right.
it was
So
how
yeah,
she
yeah.
asked you. I think she's like, "Oh, you were never taught how to sew, or did your mama not sew?" And you were like, "No." My mom's wasn't about that life. It was something, was how you responded. And I think
Right,
that's what made me laugh because it's how you respond to certain things. And they're like lining
right,
the question up for you, like, I ain't from that. That's not my life. And I laughed and I was like, this is so
right,
dope
right,
because I could see that on like, like on like a HBO or like whatever the network that would pick it up. It would be a really dope
right.
Netflix kind of series too. So yeah, you've got that knack there. Like it's really cool. So are you gonna pick that up again? Are you gonna do something like that again? Or is it a lot of work to put that together?
So the last answer is yeah, it actually is. But I am so the answer to all of them is yes. So start with a lot of work. It's like especially so that was done through a station out here called PBS, and that's why I learned with them. And then I've done independent ones since then, and it's yeah, it's a lot of work, especially like just independently. It just requires. I look at like to make music requires a lot of work, but like because of the costs, like a lot of equipment has gone down, but still to make it at a quality work, not just being knowledge, but also like time and so on and so forth. And it's
Mm,
just like audio visual qualities is like that times 100. It's just way more factors involved in getting it all together. But I love it. And to answer the other question is like we're figuring out how to pick it back up. So what we've been doing now is from that, we've more so been able to got hired by a third party like nonprofits to create things like that for them. So
that's
because
awesome.
it's still because like once again, I still need groceries. It's like they'll come in. So it'll be different communities will say, hey, we're trying to get this message out. We like how you host, we like how you create it. And then can you do something like that for us? So like right now, I'm working on one for it's a community here called Alice, was asset limited, income constrained employees. So people above the poverty line, but still not making enough money to make their ends meet. And they're like, hey, what would a series look like in your style to highlight and celebrate the people, but also show the problems, right? So from that, it's not necessarily like right now pitching stuff. It's been more so independently creating these for different entities, while at the same time I am writing out ideas to pitch. So it's
Yeah.
been cool, but it's also just a long process just because like I can make a song almost like in a day. Like to make one of those is just
Yeah.
way longer.
You
Yeah.
can tell, but it's so dope, and like I really hope that you continue because it's really enjoyable to watch. But it's
Thank
also watching it on the other side of the world and learning about certain communities, and I love all that. I'm a huge documentarian. I love watching shows, especially like highlighting different talents within
you. Yeah.
each community. I think it was the lady that was, she held like was it like a vegan kitchen or something, a
Yeah.
vegetarian kitchen.
Uh-huh.
And it was just your comments though, like they were so funny. And then she'd look at you with a side eye, and then the guy, one of your friends, I don't know if he did something, and it was just your banter with them. Like it's really dope. So it'd be
Thank
cool
you.
to
Appreciate
see
it.
that. Yeah, no, much props to you for that. But yeah, it looks like a lot of work, and that's the stuff,
Yeah.
creating things on such a high end level. you know People can create every day, but it's just like that little handheld kind of, with your phone, and it is what it is. But if you want it to be like top notch, it takes a team, and that stuff's a lot,
Yeah.
you know.
And so we're working there. So that's definitely like that's actually what I'm working towards. And even part of so for instance, part of like the way I go about content now is I use them as like proof of concept. So it's not necessarily only just to be like for me shine as an artist, but it's also showing like partners that I work with, like we can do this type of stuff for you as well. So that's kind of how like my business works now. It's like people see stuff I do and they're like, hey, we want something like that, just not that, because you're a little bit too crazy. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll be like, cool. Then I'll give my idea of like, what if we do it like this? That's
Yeah.
kind of how it works. But really like all of it, and I'm really excited that you think that way because all of it's culminating, like we're aiming to do some bigger pitches
Good.
at the top of next year. So that's kind of what we're working towards.
Well done. Well done. So you've got that, and then you've got your music. So what's the music like for Piff right now? Is it how are you feeling sort of artistry wise with your music? What are you creating right now?
My end goal, and this is what I'm working towards step by step, is I just want to do like 2 or 3 times a year, a 6 to 7 tour with my band. Like my band, we have a 6, sometimes 7 piece band, myself, 2 singers, and a 4 piece. And I just love performing with them and making music. So the music for me right now is like always is like when I'm struck and I want to write. Like that's been the same since I started. Just like I just want to write about this. It makes sense, so on and so forth. But in terms of the strategy behind it, is now getting stuff out consistently, and then I'm gonna start doing more stuff with the band in terms of content wise to build to show once again kind of proof of concept. Like, hey, this is what we do, and then book that tour. So one aspect is just purely creative, just like I just like writing stuff. So it's just like I'll sit around and I'll think about like even started doing a different writing process, which I actually got from a lot of youth I work with. Like I used to write from, you're gonna get these lyrics, here's the words, woo, 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 so on and so forth. And they put me on, this is like, they train my ear a different way in how to better flow with the beat. Like they put me on like the way most artists work now, which is why a lot of people don't like it, is they will literally just try to use their voice as an instrument. So say for instance, like a Future who kind of like started a lot of it, is like, basically they just go in there and mumble. Like they'll literally mumble, like, but then they'll go back and put words on it, piece by piece by piece, right?
Wow.
So I literally like figure I can combine my old ways with the new, like their ways, in the sense of I will actually mumble a flow now, but feel I have enough command of language that I can still say what I want to say. So the last project I did, 5 of the 6 songs, the first version of it was literally I just play the beat and just like sing song the whole way through. And I find the sing song to find flows that I like the most. And then I'm like, I can still have enough command of the language to put in what I want to put in. And it was just a cool life experience, right? So it wasn't fully, because a lot of what they do now is like they don't even care what they're saying. It's like I say this, and that. But it wasn't like my old fully of it's like you're gonna get these bars in these ways. It was like a marriage of the two. And it was like one of the most fun I had like working in a while. And I saw like the benefits of both ways, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am creatively in terms of, and I'm doing more producing, so it's less of like I get beats and I just choose one. It's more of I'll work with the producer and we sit there and refine for a
Oh,
long
wow.
time. And it's enjoyable. Like it's cool. Like I just really like the whole process and want to then translate it with my band, because then I have a music director and he takes it, like adds in elements to make it more of a live sound. So our band is never a one-to-one. It doesn't sound exactly like the recorded track. Like I'll take out my hook and put in a singing portion or add in things like that. And then we perform. So I'm building up to do that, aiming for next.
Wow.
So that's the goals. That's the goals.
Man, you've got to have goals, but you know what? You've got these little sort of steps that are kind of coming together into these, like you've just got all these different little pockets of creativity popping off, which I think is so dope. You do you want to get an album out? Are you like EP? What's the feeling? What's the vibe? Or are you not pressured with things like that? It's all just about the creation, the performing, and getting it out, and whatever happens, happens.
No. So here we go, Miss Hennessy. You getting exclusive. The goal, all right, so here's what I really think I want to do. And it could change. So like when it changes, don't bring this up to hold it against me. But like I want to create just like a multimedia project that like combines all the things that I do for one thing. So meaning I'm working on a short film, and with that short film, I would like to have a soundtrack which would have the new music on it. And then also the micro content, like social media stuff would all feed to it. So it's like all this stuff preformed for this one thing, and then do performances with the band of that. Like have a big screening of the short film, and then also have performances with the band and like that mini tour. So essentially, it's like all these disparate things, how to combine them for like focus on one thing, and then kind of roll with that for a little bit. And then
So like
funny
you're
enough,
like a multi-hyphened artist, multi-hyphen creative is what we can
yeah,
say.
and that's kind of like where I'm at nowadays, right? Like it's like I love music, but I like making these things. I love hosting
Oh,
things, right? So it's kind of where it is.
you don't want to be pigeonholed either. And I think the way the world is right now, like I think everybody has so much that they want to say and they want to share with everything going on in the world right now, that if you are a creative person and you're a musical person, now is the time. Now is the time to do it. Now is the time to get it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
So I think
And
that sounds dope, man.
thank you. And now I'm just figuring out ways, like just on the business side of how to like. So the problem is I've been like independent so long. I don't know how to. I don't know if I know how to play nice like within the industry way. And I've done stuff in the industry. It's like this is not that fun. Like not as a
Yeah.
way more of a heavy hand of making like this. So
Mhm.
I'm working on figuring out like a business structure to get it funded for other ways, like essentially like sponsorships, right? So, back in the day, the big three was like, shoot, especially like print, radio, and TV, right? Whereas now people use creators and influencers and so on and so forth. So because I can speak to a certain audience, it's more like I'm aiming to get to the point of like, hey, this is what I want to create. I can weave you guys in here seamlessly. I don't want that much of your input, and let's do it, right? As opposed to, you know
Would
what I'm
you say
saying?
it like that too? Because I love that. I don't
No,
want.
that's pretty much like it. It's like, yeah, y'all doing too much. Like, definitely, I want to have a conversation, but like, keep all that over there because y'all don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, so kind of like that. And so I'm kind of just trying to show a track record now. People I work with, like, here's what we created for this, and this is what it did, and so on and so forth. So right now, just getting all that momentum. So in about hopefully like 6 months, 9 months time, we're like, this is what we done, this is what we need, this is what we want to create, and this is like the impact it'll have for you. And then like, yeah, that's just kind of the goal.
So then, in conjunction with all that you're doing, you're still obviously doing your sort of work, your community work, like your. Well, I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
call it. I don't want to call it the wrong thing, but like you're
Yeah, no.
still involved with the youth.
Right. Definitely. And it works kind of so, and I don't know well, it was intentional, but it's a very weird thing. So the more I do in like what's considered just pure entertainment side, the more opportunities I get to do workshops and like talks. And the more talks and workshops I do, people will bring me stuff to do like just pure entertainment. So I've kind of, in a blessed way and intentional, have a career now where like they're meshed. So it's not like I get like most of my talks and workshops because I post music. So it won't even be about the talk. And it's because people know about me. They look up more and they're like, oh, we didn't know you do this. Can you come do that? So as that's going on, it just allows more opportunities for talks and workshops. And then I have a specific program I do, which once again, in the power of entertainment, it gets funded because the people who donate to me are people who basically knew me from music. And they're like, hey, we like what you do, so on and so forth. So it's just this big mesh
It's
of
meant
all
to
this stuff.
be.
But yeah. So like straight up, definitely we'll do the talks and workshops, but it comes along with it. So as opposed to, hey, I'm gonna get a agent for talks and workshops, so on and so forth, people just find me. Like it's kind of like, hey, this dude's interesting, or references. And then they'll be like, can you come talk to these students? Can you come do this? So
So
that's kind
cool.
of the game plan.
Are you busy all the time, Piff? Like, is your workload like a lot? Like, are you on the road a lot? What does a typical week look like for you?
Right. So typical week. All right. So there's two modes. There's like predictable mode and chaos. And I say this all the time, like, because people sometimes ask, like, how do I feel about them? I only like them because the other one exists. It's complete like yin and yang. If you told me that typical mode and it existed all the time, I would go crazy. And if you told me chaos mode, I get burned out. So typical mode is like in my crib. I have like I'm probably the most set routine dude. Like every day, I eat the same thing 5.5 days a week, so on and so forth. And like while I'm here, it's just like lining up ahead of time, like what gets what block of time. It's normally 3 blocks of time for the day, and then workout and decompression. And that's the same time. And I'm not like so much of a robot. Some changes up, cool, I'll flow with it. But then like on the road, which is the other half of the time, is like whatever. It's like really whatever is going on. And because I like experiencing culture, it's not just like whatever they have planned for me. Then I'm like, what are y'all known for music wise, nightlife? What are you known for? Nature, and I'll just explore. And that's kind of where like the adventurer comes in. Cause it's like, if I'm out of town, like when I was there, it was like, cool. First thing first is primarily engage with this community, do this job, so on and so forth. Second thing second, what y'all got? Like, what we getting into?
I
You know
know
what I'm
that
saying?
you enjoy taking a picture of like the local food. I know you enjoy
Yeah.
exploring the
Food over
culinary.
everything. And that's the thing. So like in my predictable life, eat the same thing. In the streets, Miss Hennessy, it's whatever. Like, it's like I'm just going, I'm like, what are y'all known for? And then whatever they name, I'm like, bet, let's get it. Right.
But
And that's
that's dope. That's part of the experience though with travel. I mean, you've traveled so much by the sounds of it. Like it's you would be at a loss to not want to go and find
Yeah,
out what's good on, on the streets in terms of the food and the nightlife. And you would be hard pressed now at the moment with Sydney. We're only starting to come back to life. We really took a dive, I think, after COVID. It just Sydney has always been a vibrant city, and I'm sure, or I hope you guys would have found that when you were here, but it just and with most countries and with most cities, when COVID hit, everything just went right down. But Sydney was kind of going down already before that, so it was really hard, and it's only just starting to come back up
right,
again. So we've got
right.
some great new restaurants popping up, and the city's different, but man, it's expensive, yo. Like, it's just now I'm gonna find the budget side of Sydney, right?
Right, right,
Like,
right,
give
right.
me a little cheapy.
And yeah, exactly. And I kept up with a lot because I had a few people I knew over there, and they were kind of telling me because I know like y'all shut down to the United States for like 2, 3 years.
Indeed.
Uh, and so yeah, so I'm glad to hear it's like coming back and bubbling. Um,
Slowly but
even
surely.
even though a little pricey. Like Sydney was like, y'all are a
Yeah,
little pricey over here.
yeah, a little bit pricey, a little bit on the, yeah.
A
So
little bit. Maybe
my
just
husband and I
maybe.
always laugh about it, and he's just like, because we went to the States in April of this year. We
Okay.
went back to visit family and took our boys back, and our kids were like marveling at the size of like the food and like the plates. They was like, "Mom," and I went, "Don't even think about it. This is not a large. This is like two human people size for large in Australia, in America, in Australia. Large is like yours entree, I think, is what it is.
Right. It was
They
funny. So I had someone that came and I was showing them around in Atlanta and they were like, wait, like, why is there so much food? Like she kept on being like, and she was like, why is there so much food, like restaurants, and why the portion so big? And
yeah.
she at first thought it was just like a fluke, like in the sense of we were just in one area. And then we were driving. She's like, what you mean? Like every spot just has so much food? And I was like, yeah, we just eat a lot.
But
It's
but
crazy.
it's also just, I think it's just what America's always been known for. It's just like this, like a lot of food. And
It's a
Australia
lot.
seems to be a little bit, obviously, a bit more portion sort of controlled, but the food
Healthier.
is just really expensive here. So yeah, that was a huge eye opener for our boys. Like, I think it was like we didn't go to Disneyland or nothing because we just went back to see family, but the food was Disneyland for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, eat now and don't ask for anything for the next 2 years. So we return back again because we got to work this out. So yeah,
Yeah. No, it's
it was
weird. Yeah.
really dope. No, it was really dope.
Yeah.
So um your beginnings, right? And I know that you've made reference obviously to your amazing family that you come from, but you also kind of do a bit of a sort of tongue-in-cheek thing about you've got is it three sisters, or is it
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Three.
three sisters and mom and dad, and your mom is quite an iconic woman, and your sisters are really really educated and doing really well, and then you've made reference to being, and then there's you, the rapper. And I often laugh when you put those posts up about how you kind of fashion yourself, but you come from a really strong matriarchal based home, with
Yeah.
these strong women around you. So can we talk a little bit about them? Because your mum, definitely seems to be somebody that holds
Yeah.
some mega weight in that.
Yeah. No, my like the one thing that I say that's the coolest thing about my family, I was purely blessed because I had no control over is we're so all six of us are tight knit and they're all like amazing in their own right. And it comes down to just them being like really good people. So the thing that was cool, like of me growing up, was like I was always like I'm not doing anything because it was like my sisters were just overachievers. Like, and the thing is, like, people look at me like, "Oh, you achieve a lot," and I'll be like, "I guess," but they be doing this all the time, right? And so, it was cool. Like, it was just my mom just always kind of put in this. Both my parents put in this is like, do your best and whatever else, be cool with it. Like, if you do your best and come up short, that's cool. It was just
Yeah.
that their expectation was very clearly like your best should be pretty high. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was like, do your best. And I was like, all right, cool. They're like, nah, it's not your best. So it was that, and like that was given to my sisters. I have two older and one younger,
Right.
and so yeah, we just all tight knit family. And they all We were very much like an academic focused house. Like my parents met in, I'm not sure if you're familiar with schools over here, but like MIT, and then I
Yeah.
went to different grad schools, woo, woo, woo. And then I actually started off pre-med and then quickly realized like, nah. And then I was switched over to engineering, but the way I actually came into rap, I always loved hip hop as far as like the music, but like my biggest fear was public speaking. And so I just, in my junior year, I was trying to get over fear of like public speaking. And so I rapped on stage. And after the second time I did it, I actually fell in love with the art of performing. And like, that's what changed the career, like my trajectory, right? Before that, I was straight up engineering, gonna go to grad school, stuff like that. And then, you know, it was a very strategic, interesting conversation with my mom. And it was a
Can
very
imagine.
strategic, interesting conversation. And they were separate because I was like, I'm a shoot real, but I gotta like what appealed to talk to him. I had to use two different approaches. So I spoke with my mom, and she was like shook. She was like
Wow.
really shook. But at the same time, I'd say my parents were as supportive as you can be
Yeah.
without being crazy. So it wasn't like they were like, you're ruining your life going crazy, so on and so forth. It was more like, we have no idea what you're doing, but let's figure this out.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like they were as supportive as possible without being like overly
Yeah.
crazy with it, right? And so since then, like I tell people now, so sometimes people still ask like, how's my mom feel? My mom will straight up, if I do a show with the band, my mom's the first to buy tickets for her and her
That's what's
homegirls, and
up.
she'll get a section on the side and like that. And so like the homies who like know, you know, come to a lot of shows, like she's known as Mama Piff. And so like my people will be like, how's your mom feel? Like, dude, my mom like knows the words to the band shows and want to
That's
get
what's
mad
up.
if I don't tell her quick enough about shows, she find out from someone else. She'll call me up like, "What's wrong with you? Why'd you tell me? I better be able to get tickets." And like, and my dad's chill. Like my dad just kind of like, "You doing all right, boy?" They be like,
Oh,
"Yeah." Be like,
wow.
cool. You know what I'm saying? So my parents are I call them my heroes, not because of just parents, but because like even later in life, they still chose to become better people and grow. And that's just
Yeah.
always something I've watched in terms of like my mom. I've seen her be in this stage of life, in this stage of life. Because when we first moved to Arkansas, she hated it and was like really struggling with it. And I saw how she overcame that and then moved into the realm of like she was entrepreneurship, but then like philanthropy and really giving. And my mom always just was a person to like give, right? So even in a job, she'd be like always hiring people who want to get hired, like a lot of people out of prison and stuff like that. So my mom was just always, uh, if you do right, and I'll give you a chance. And
Yeah.
like if you show compassion, she'll be like, you know what I'm saying? She'll show compassion first.
That's
And
what's
like
up.
if you show it back, then like she'll just be with forever. So even though my mom's retired, she still gets up with like a lot of our old managers 7 years later and takes them all out to lunch. Like, you know what
That's
I'm saying?
what's up.
So that's just kind of who she is. And that's just like always been an example. So
Yeah.
yeah, mom's cool. And then she's just like a cool, like funny lady. So
No,
I rock with her.
I've
She's
seen
cool.
some of your posts, like, and I think one of the posts that I saw, I was like,
She
man,
was in
really
one.
cool. She received, like, I think she was on the cover of a magazine or
Yeah.
something, and I was like, yo,
Yeah. Philanthropist of the
you
year.
you come from that though, like that's in your DNA, and that's like the greatness that you're doing in hip hop now, even if it's not like along the path that maybe your parents thought you were going to go. You're still walking in greatness. You're still doing what you
Yeah.
do, and
Yeah.
that's part of that
And
feeling.
I make the joke. And I make the joke because I'm like, I literally don't care. And neither does my family. I make it because it's a funny thing to make. Like I say they have a separate text thread with only grad school students, so I'm not allowed on it because I don't have a graduate degree. Like, so it's and my mom, and it's funny because my mom's friends sometimes think I'm being serious. They're like, that boy's dumb. Like he's like, I literally it was like everybody in my family is so tight. I just find it funny to make the joke and watch other people. Yeah, but like literally in terms of internally, my parents rock with us all the same and like respect is all the same and
Oh,
appreciate how we go through life all the same, you know?
exactly. That's what's
So
up. And when you look at it, it's like they've got the theoretical part of the family and then the practical part, and you're out there kind of doing the like walking the walk, and they've sort of
right, right.
studied the walk. So it's kind of it comes together at
Yeah,
the
it's
end of the
cool.
day, really.
It's
And
cool.
it's dope. I wanted to mention that to you, and I thought that was really cool. So, um,
Appreciate it.
So yeah, so you know what, Pip, this is it's been so dope to catch up with you after all these years and to know that you're still doing the same things, if not more and if not better. And you know, I always like to say change making because you know people can, and I think you mentioned it before we hit record. You're not just trying to create stuff online just for the sake of creating. Like there's always purpose behind what we create, and there's purpose behind what we want to put out there in the world. So I think, you know, everything that you're doing within your multi-hyphened career, there's purpose behind it. So it's just great to know that you're still doing it and you're back online now and your music and your videos and all the awesome stuff that you do. So yeah, man, just keep it up. It's awesome. And hopefully we'll see you back in Australia and bring your band down and
I'm gonna figure it out.
do some stuff. You know,
I'm
it'll
gonna
be
figure it
dope.
out.
I'm
That'd be
sure
great.
you will.
I'm gonna
I'm
keep
sure.
you posted. We're gonna figure it out.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Let everybody know where they can find you, follow you, your socials. Where can people hit you up?
Yeah, so real simple. Everything's just Big Piph, Bigpiph on all the socials, website, just Big Piph, Biph. So yeah, check it out.
Awesome. Are you on
I
Spotify as
appreciate you.
well with your music?
Yeah, everything. So any like literally music, everything Bigpiph. That's for music, socials, website. Try to make it easy.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
What does Big Piff mean? Just for people like that are
So,
watching, what does it mean?
yeah, so quick story. So it's always been Epiphany, right? That was the artist name when I was doing, it's always been Epiphany. The problem is you always lose to Jesus on Google because Epiphany is like January 6th. So literally, no matter what I did, it would be Jesus, T-Pain, Chrisette Michelle, and me, right?
In that order?
In that order. Like Jesus always wins on Google. Like if you put in Epiphany, it's Jesus first, and then it'll be like, so what happened was is I used to, as a joke, I had a homeboy named Throwback, and he used to call me Big Piff. And I used to be like, bro, stop calling me that. And then the song was as a joke for him, I started off like, it's Big Piff, baby. So then when I had to change names because I wanted to be like search engine, it was just like, they were like, you gotta choose Big Piff. And I was like, nah, man. Like, so it literally was like never intended. It was just the one that made the most sense because I was joking with my homeboy in the song and it stuck. So literally like Piff is just from Epiphany and Big was because that's what he would call me as a joke. And so it literally is like a
That's
joke that now
cool. That's a cool story. And
yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
beat Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like no matter how
No,
cool.
exactly. You can't. I'll be like, dude, I took the Elder Jesus. Like, no matter what, I could go out and like flip over cars and it'd be like Jesus, and then Epiphany flipped over a car. Like it would never be so yeah. So it became Big Piff, and now I own all of Google.
That's what
So that's how.
that's what's up. And I bet you your homeboy, he has the last laugh. I gave
Yeah,
him the name.
yeah. He was like, I told you so, right? So it works.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Again, meant to be. Meant to be. That's awesome.
Very cool. Well, I
So
appreciate you. Thanks for reaching out.
anytime, man. It's so good to you know chop it up, chat, and just find out a little bit more because I know we probably didn't talk enough like this. You did come on my radio show when you were here last, and I think you were on with Dobby. The two I had both of you on the show at the time, and so there was a lot to talk about there. But it's just nice to kind of have a little bit more of a deep dive to find out what's going on and what you're working on. So very excited and looking forward to everything, especially that series, man. Bring it back.
Real okay. Duly noted. Duly noted. I appreciate
And
that.
if you did need someone from Australia to feature on there, I'm just saying.
I got you. I got you.
Just
Duly noted.
subliminally saying. I don't know who you're gonna choose, but I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
Just throwing that out there. You know,
Wonderful. Just throwing it out there. Manifesting. You know what I mean? All right. You take it easy, man.
That's
And thanks for your time.
cool.
See you, bro.
All right. You have a good one.
Mrs. missing a side tooth, I like that. She too perfect online, get that wife back. No flaws, easy to draw, bruh, keep it raw. After dark, setting bonnets be the nightcap. That's what I tell you, but my thumb scroll, don't believe it. IG Explore filled with cleavage like I know you see it. On the cool, really I do. I go for a view, my homeboys like underneath it. Got 'em, me too. I just never double tap on a bubble back, though the algorithm loving that. Her pants hugging the crack, she looking back like it's for you. But bruh, don't DM that, don't befriend that, don't offend that lady by getting all shady when she never pens back. Whack comment like your dad's so proud. Fishing for the hate cause you fell for the bait. Observing, keep it moving, she ain't choosing you. Now you got a little stank attitude. Pissed at your lady cause your current state of view's off kilter. Like your skin's filter smooth. What's more true, ain't got a woman that dog. So get your PlayStation on, dog. It ain't hard. Show love and move around. Don't be the clown. Guess I'll put my phone down now. Cause don't you know